Happy August 14th, everybody. I hope you're doing well. I want to do a Facebook Live today and share my story. Today is my son's 10-year anniversary for going to heaven, and I want to take a couple of minutes and just share it because I feel ready to, and it's something that I have held very dearly and closely to my heart and my soul for so long that I feel my way of healing is sharing it. So I'm gonna just take a couple of minutes and tell you what my life looked like 10 years ago. And it's all starting on July 15th, 2007. I went into labor when my son was 25 weeks pregnant. Oh my God, no, my son wasn't 25 weeks pregnant. See, this is how you can see how nervous I am. But I was 25 weeks pregnant and I went into labor. And everyone that's joining on, thank you so much for joining on. I hope that this video serves you, and I probably won't be commenting. I won't be looking at your comments. I just want to share my story and I will read through them later. So again, thank you for tuning in, and if you're watching on the replay, welcome to my story. So again, this story is going to start from July 15th, 2007. When I went into labor, I was only 25 weeks pregnant. I had no idea that, that it was even possible to go into labor. I heard all these people that would have children, and, all the kids always made it, so nothing ever crossed my mind about actually going into labor and with the possibility of my child dying. So July 15th, 2007, and I was like on one of those yoga balls and I was bouncing, and I could feel cramping, I could feel cramping and something didn't feel right. And I went to bed and I had like a hot water bottle, and Reese was only 2 years old, so my husband was up, and I was watching a movie in bed, and the cramping was getting worse, and little did I know it was contractions. So I said to my husband, hey, something's not right. He ran me a bath. I took a hot bath, and that's something you shouldn't do when you're in labor. So me being me, I got my car keys, and I'm like, you know what, I'm just gonna go to the hospital. So about 2 o'clock in the morning, I went to the hospital myself. And as I'm driving in my car, having contractions, Grant was at home with Reese. And heaven forbid I ever call an ambulance. I would never do that, because I'm stubborn. And I drove to the hospital, and they examined me, or they didn't examine me. They asked me questions, and they said, hey, what's going on? And I was just telling them, and they're like, you're fine. It's Braxton Hicks, and if you know anything about pregnancy, Braxton Hicks is like a false labor. You get these feelings of contractions, but they're really not contractions. So again, I was like okay, maybe I'm exaggerating, maybe my pain tolerance is low. And as I'm going into the elevator, I was like, and this nurse, she saw me, and she's like, hey, are you okay? And I was like, yeah, the nurses have just told me that I'm having Braxton Hicks, and I'm going home. And she said, you're not going home, come with me. So I went with her, and I'm like shaking right now. This is so funny. It's not funny, actually. It's really, it feels good to talk about it. So when she examined me, she did like a proper examination, and she found out that I was 7 centimeters dilated. So 7 centimeters dilated, 25 weeks pregnant, and it's not looking good. And so my life went from something where I was sent home to this lady seeing me and knowing that something wasn't right. And it was like my life went like this. Whew. It was like a whirlwind. I'm not kidding you. I can remember this so clearly. Them transferring me onto a bed so quickly. And I remember the doctor saying to me, you're gonna have this baby in the next hour, because I was dilating that fast. And I'm in the bed and I'm just thinking, I'm having this baby in an hour, like he's not ready to come out. My husband's not here. Like I just remember so clearly, like nurses and doctors running around me. They had this like siren thing on, and I just couldn't like comprehend what was happening, right? So let alone I'm in pain. I am contracting. I am like, oh my God, I'm gonna die. So I'm not even thinking about the baby, to be honest with you. And I'm also thinking though that this baby will be born, but this baby's gonna be okay. Because this is 2007, technology is higher. The doctors are able to, they're able to save him. Luckily, I get a hold of my husband and he drives as quick as he can. As quick as he can. And I remember him getting there and Isaiah was already born. And I remember pushing, and I pushed so freaking hard. And I remember feeling this baby coming out, and I've only had cesarean section, so Isaiah was a natural birth, and having him, this 2-pound baby coming out of me felt like this giant thing. I can't even explain to you. So Isaiah was out, and I remember a little incubator crib thing, and they took him over there and they put him in there, and they're poking and prodding and doing all these things. And it's weird reliving this, by the way, just so you know, like I am doing really well. Like today I'm just like, I'm gonna have a great day. But reliving it instance by instance is challenging for me. I'm really holding back. So he's in the incubator, but then they're telling me to push again. And I'm like, that push again. So I have to get my placenta out. And I remember pushing and pushing and pushing. And I remember literally, I mean, this might sound gross, I'm so sorry, but my placenta coming out, and it felt like it was weighed more than the baby, you know? And I remember my placenta straight up flopped on the ground, and there's like this big giant, it looked like a big piece of steak. That's all I can explain it. And I remember the doctors were covered in blood. I could see all this blood right here on the doctor's white coat. And let me tell a funny part as well. This is where you find fun in these situations. I remember when I was pushing, I was breaking my water when I was pushing, and my water broke and it gushed and it went all over the doctor. It was something out of a movie. I can't even explain it. So anyway, they take Isaiah away. They take me away. They put me in a room with my husband, and you know, straight away, like I was all drugged up, and we didn't really understand the importance and the severity of what was happening. So all these neonatal nurses were beautiful. I remember them. They were so like angels and just so precious and soft and gentle. And anyone who knows me, they know that I'm a well receiver of people that are very gentle and love-based, and they were just like angels. That's all I can describe it. And they would come in and they would be like, you know, saying all these things, and I didn't have a clue. I just thought, holy shit, I want to see my baby. Like, I really want to see my child. And I remember seeing him for the first time. I had to get in a wheelchair. This was maybe about 7 hours later. So they took him away straight away, and I didn't see him for 7 hours. They prepared me before I saw him that he was not going to look like a real baby. One that I had seen before, one that had, you know, a face full of chubbiness, and, you know, it was going to be different for me. So they put me in the wheelchair, and they wheeled me down to the neonatal unit. And I remember seeing this blue light, and it was just blue lights. Like, there was like 3 incubators with all these children, 3 children, you know, because it was intensive care neonatal. And Isaiah, that's my son's name. Isn't that a beautiful name? Isaiah Grant Morrison, he weighed 2 ounces, or 2 pounds, 2 ounces, the same as a bag of sugar. And even though he was only 2 pounds, he looked so perfect to me. And he had, for as small as, it's so funny because for as small as he was so perfect. And 25 weeks, he was fully formed. You know, he had his fingernails and his toenails and his feet, and everything was so perfect. And his limbs were very long, and that was so, for me, when I see my kids, you know, I'm 6 foot, my husband's 6'3", and, you know, of course they're going to be long. So I saw that and I just thought, God, he's like a little my husband laying there. And it was beautiful to watch him. Now let me flip that for you. Isaiah had tubes down his throat, in his nose. He had glasses to cover the light from his eyes. His little veins, you know, everything was poked, and he had all these monitors on his chest. And now that I think about that, I didn't see that at the time. I just saw my son, and I saw this perfect thing that God had created. I saw this little human being that was just there, and all his trust was in human beings. So this environment that we're in is very, very quiet. It's just soft. That's how I can explain it. It's just really soft. And it's not panicky. For as panicky as you think it might be, it wasn't. The lights were low. The blue lights were on him. You would hear beeps. You would hear constant beep, beep, beep. And all these numbers were in a screen. I didn't know what any of those numbers meant at all. People would come and say, oh, his stats are high, his stats are low, oh. But I had no clue. I would just look at those numbers and I would see them changing and just wonder, what do all these numbers mean? I had no clue. So long story short, it can't really be that short, but time went on, and every day my son was doing okay. You know, I was breastfeeding, not him, but I was going and I was pumping and I was putting it into these little jars and putting it in the freezer, and I was doing my bit. I couldn't hold him. He was too delicate. I couldn't do anything with him except for look and pray. I would pray. Oh, I would put my hands on him and I would pray. Give me 1 second. I am good. But yeah, that's like the whole power of prayer. Because all I had was prayer, and I'll tell you that. So yeah, being in that environment, you know, like I said, you have this opportunity to get educated. So see those stats? So quickly I would pick up what those stats mean. I knew how much oxygen my child was having. I knew his oxygen breathing. So again, I was learning. I was taking from this very hard situation. And let alone, I've got a 2-year-old at home, you know, so it's a hard one, because you're here, you're there, you're here, you're there. And every day Isaiah would, his little leg would kick, you know, and it was just so sweet. I would sing Sleeping Bunnies, which was a nursery rhyme, and his leg would kick. And at nighttime, I would sit there from midnight to 5 in the morning, and we would play Bob Marley. That was his thing. He loved Bob Marley. We felt like every time we put Bob Marley on, his stats would become lower. He wouldn't require as much oxygen. So I haven't been home in 2 weeks, and you know, every day it's like Groundhog Day. You know, the doctors are talking to you, but you really don't know what's going on. You just have faith in God that it's going to be okay. And I got to know the little girl that was right next to him. Her name was Maya, and she was born a day before Isaiah. And that's who I named my daughter Maya after, because she was such a warrior. So things went from good to hard really quickly. And this was like in week 2, Isaiah's lung collapsed. And that's when the flashing lights go off, your child gets rushed away, and you sit there and you think, is my child coming back? And he did come back, and his lung, you know, they I don't even know what you call it, but it wasn't collapsed anymore from the x-ray, and he was on oxygen again. And this happened 3 or 4 times where his lungs would collapse. And again, having that faith in the doctors, and that just praying to God that my son would be okay and that my son would go home. So you know, some days we would get to go home and sleep for a few hours, and usually they would call us to come back because something had happened to Isaiah. But I'll tell you, one of the hardest things for me was leaving the hospital, and you would see babies in prams, you'd see them in car seats, and I would go home and I would see Isaiah's room, and it had a beautiful crib, all giraffe themes, and it was beautiful. And I just couldn't wait to get my son home. That was my final goal. That was like, son, you're gonna be home, and we're just gonna love you so much. And so that was hard for me, seeing children coming out of the hospital when it wasn't my own. So I'm gonna fast forward to week 3.5. I know this is a lot of things happening, but fast forward to week 3.5, when I probably had the hardest conversation that I've ever had before in my life. And what that looked like was, Dr. Patel was his name. He was a really nice man, but again, he was so educated, and he wasn't very relatable to people that were not educated in the medical field. So my husband and I were taken into a room, and I heard the word palliative care for the first time. When he said this to us, he was looking at us with very deep sorrow, and it was as if everything had been trialed, every experiment had been tested, and they told me that our son was going on to palliative care in 2 days. What palliative care means is that if something happened to Isaiah, they would not intervene. They would not go and do any surgical procedures. They would not attend. They would not give him oxygen if he needed more. Palliative care just meant that if something happened to my child, maybe that was his time to go. My husband and I really try to have a strong argument about why we didn't want him to be on palliative care. But deep down inside, we also knew, and we also were aware that maybe this was his time to go. And seeing him suffer, you don't want to see your child laying there with tubes and bloods taken, and you don't want to see that for your child. So part of me, a very small part of me, was okay with him going. But I didn't want to. I didn't want him to go, which I'm sure all of you can understand. So we had to start preparing. I had to make phone calls to my family in America. Everyone was in America. We were in England. It was hard. We were by ourselves, and you know, you can imagine being with your husband for a whole month and really not having interactions with all this stress. It was hard. So when I talk about preparation for your son dying, I just can't even believe I'm having this conversation and you're listening right now. But I had to start thinking about, what did it look like when my son died? And because they gave us no hope that he was going to be okay. So very gently, like I said, the nurses were so angelic, and it was such a peaceful environment. Within the struggle, so much peace was there. And I remember it was a really quiet afternoon, and one of the nurses says, I know this is extremely hard, but would you like to come and pick out Isaiah's outfit for when he's in his casket? It was really hard. There's about 4 outfits to choose from. I swear I'm making it through this conversation. There's like 4 outfits to choose from, and they were so beautiful. They were white with silk and little blue trim, and they were so soft. I remember that, and I wanted the softest. Take a drink. So I picked it out, and you also got to pick out a box that all his goodies could go into. So I had a little giraffe that I put into his box. And it's hard when you're looking at your son thinking, oh my gosh, he's going to be dead in one day. And it gets even harder, which I'm going to just really probably talk fast to this because I want to just share it and be done. It gets harder because then you have to choose what time your kid is going to die. And we picked 5 o'clock. We picked 5 o'clock because we knew that we could experience this together, with still hope that maybe he would survive without oxygen. And we would go home and we would sleep. Remember, we haven't slept in like a whole month, so, oh dear God, I'm crying so hard, I'm trying to stop. So, this was on a Wednesday, and our son was gonna be taken off of his life support pretty much on the Thursday. And so, you know, we're looking at that clock and it's 3 o'clock and the chaplain is supposed to come. We have Isaiah christened, and it was so beautiful. It was very, very special for us. That was something very important in our hearts. And I said, I don't want to wait for the chaplain. The chaplain was running late. I was at the point where I'm like, let's just do this and get this over with. I can't bear this anymore. So, let alone there's another secret compartment, and they bring us into a back room. It's so pretty. It's so pretty. It's so perfect. And there's a couch, and there's like a crib, and there's like, it's just so peaceful. And what happens is me and Grant go in there and we sit and we hold hands and we pray and we cry. And they tell us we're going to bring him in now. So, this is great reliving this, by the way. These are like happy tears. They're sad, but they're happy. So anyway, what I'm going to say is that they brought my son in. And it was the 3rd time that I got to hold him. And he felt so big because what they've done is they've put like 3 sets of layers on him, and he feels bigger than what he is. And they bring him in, and he's still on all his wires and stuff like that, and they put him in my hands. So I'm holding him, and my husband is holding me and part Isaiah. And within about 4 minutes, they unhook him from his life support machine. And I was so peaceful. I could really feel his soul just going like that. It's hard to explain, but I genuinely could feel his soul rising out of his body. And it's hard to explain that if you've never experienced it. I don't understand how to explain it, but I could feel his little body. I could feel his soul leaving, and I knew he was gone before I had to be told, if that makes sense. I could feel his soul leaving his body. And I'm looking at this baby, and the color changes instantly. So he's gone from, you know, a normal color to a gray color, and he was gone. And the nurses are so nice. I would love to see them, just to say thank you for loving us during that time. So anyway, okay, I'm gonna go in the sense of he's died, we have to leave, and we have to get, their whole life is the same, everything's normal, but our son has just died and we're leaving the hospital, and you have to pretend nothing's wrong. You don't want to cry in front of people, but I remember I got in my car and I have to drive home because we really don't know people in England, you know. Oh my gosh, I'm such a mess, guys. I'm so sorry. So anyway, driving home, and I just remember crying for days and days and days, and planning the funeral and stuff like that. So here is really why I'm posting this today. Because every day on August 14th, which is today, my day is really, really bad. And today I have woken up, and this is his 10th anniversary. And can I just say, the power of the mind and the power of transformation? I'm having a great day. I know I'm crying, but I'm sharing his story. And I want to give a special shout out to someone who's so important in my life, and he'll never know the impact that he's provided in my world, and that is my coach and this amazing guy, Jason Goldberg. He has helped me transform my mind, and knowing that regardless of whatever circumstance happens in my life, I have the creative power and the creativity to choose how I want to show up. And this is his 10th anniversary, and I am showing up. I am rewriting my story and getting on with my day in a beautiful sense. And what I mean by that is, I woke up this morning and I didn't feel depressed. I didn't want to eat a million things. I didn't want to sit in my room and just cry and be pissed off at the world, because I've done that for 9 years. Today I woke up and I just thought, oh my gosh, this really hard thing that's happened in my life has enabled me to learn so much about myself. Also, I cannot wait to freaking love and serve other people. So this is my special thing, and I'm gonna put details about this. I want to serve any women that have experienced losing a child or gone through something really tragic. I want to serve you. I want to teach you every single thing that I have learned from Jason Goldberg, from all my tribe and Playful Prosperity. These are people who, they hold you accountable to being a self-leader. They don't take your shit. You don't take your prisoner talk. They tell you about being a self-leader, and I'm like that. I am rewriting my story. I am not going to be freaking sad. I'm not going to be sitting here crying my eyes out. I know I'm crying, but again, this is different. I'm totally sharing my story and reliving it, but I'm recreating my feelings and my actions. And I want to be a place of service. I want to serve other women that have experienced something. So I want to offer free coaching to women that are really stuck in their life because they can't move on from the death of their child at a young age. And, you know, I don't really know what that looks like, but I'm here to listen to you. And like I said, I want to give you the tools, on how you can create a story that serves you in your life. Because when I'm at home and I'm feeling so depressed, it doesn't serve me. It doesn't serve my family. It doesn't serve my children. Every year I always do something crazy. Like last year on Isaiah's birthday, I signed up for a marathon. I never completed it. I felt like a failure. The year before, I think I got a gym membership. I never went. I felt like a failure. I beat myself up constantly. Every year I sign up for some bullshit that's not going to fulfill me. And what I realize now is that the self-transformation that I have is all from here. It's all about choosing and creating your happiness. So as hard as that was for me to do, guess what? I've done it, and I'm so happy. And yeah, I feel like this has been a breakthrough for me, just being on here. So if anyone's watched this, like I said, I'll go through and look at the comments, but I thank each and every one of you for the part that you play in my life, and the part that you enable me to be. I'm just feeling like I know I'm a beautiful woman and I want you to feel the same. So if there's something holding you back, like reach out to me. I want to serve you. I really do. This is like total free coaching, by the way. I'm not charging this. I want to do this, and I just know my son is looking down at me so proud of the mom that I am. I'm winning, man. I'm so winning in life right now. I can't even tell you. But yeah, guys, thank you so much for listening. I honestly, I went and got myself a coffee and a sugar donut. I'm just going to sit here and I'm going to look out. I'm just at a park right now. And I'm just going to thank God for everything that I have in my life, because I'm feeling grateful. And I'm not going to let the death of my son hold me as a prisoner. I'm not going to let that control my feelings of feeling like shit, because I don't have to. I want to feel good, and I choose to feel good. So again, yeah, I hope this inspires you to whatever the hell in your life, however it relates, man. I really hope it touches and inspires you. And thank you so much for listening to my story. God bless and enjoy your day. Thanks. I don't even know how to turn this off. Okay.